What is going on, everybody? Kamusta kayo lahat mula sa Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Canada, and wherever the heck you are on the planet? This is your one and only JOAT, the place to be for any niche, every genre, and all generations. I'm your master of ceremony, D to the E to the LRO, aka JDR, aka the extraordinary introvert. So if you guys are wondering why I mentioned Canada on my intro, that is because we finally have our first ever Canadian guest on the pod. And if you guys see my shirt, I'm wearing Wendy from Red Velvet because she may be a K-pop idol, but she is from Canada as well. So, I had to rep not just my favorite K-pop group, but one of the members who lives from Canada. So, to my guests over here, if you can do me a favor, if ever I can make it to Canada, huge if, because you don't know when it's going to be. Could you please be kind enough to introduce me to Wendy one of these days?
Not that I know her, like in person, imagine. That would be very cool.
For sure.
One day, maybe.
Yeah. I think you both are from the same city. You both are from Toronto, I think.
Toronto.
Yep.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, I didn't know that though.
Yeah.
This is my first time learning.
Really?
Yeah, about that.
Anyways, yeah, that's enough of the side intro right there. But yeah, all jokes aside, we finally have our guest hailing from Toronto, Canada. And it's crazy. I think the last time we saw each other was, 5 years ago.
Yeah, literally. That was so long.
It's been way too long, and who knows? Maybe we'll be able to see each other. Maybe you can come here, or I might be lucky enough to visit you guys in Canada soon. We'll see.
Yeah, come by.
Yep. And not only that, but we gotta give her shop a special shout out because if you guys don't know, Bean and Pearl, they just won this special award. I think it's like a certificate of. I'm sure she'll tell us all about later, but
Yeah.
they won an award for the best Filipino heritage. Besides, they represent the Pinoy community over there in Canada so well, and that's essentially what we're gonna be talking about. So, while a lot of folks choose to pursue the American dream, a lot of Filipinos are in Los Angeles, New York, my home state, the Bay Area. This person and her family over here decided to switch it up because they wanted to try out their luck in the great country of Canada. So without further ado, after another cringe-ass boring intro, let's give it up for Miss Arika Macaalay, everybody.
Hello, thanks for introducing me. Yes, from Toronto. Bean and Pearl is our shop. Yes, we did get that certificate. It's actually from the city of Brampton. So that we have two locations. There's one in Brampton, which is Greater Toronto area, and then one in Toronto. But we had a certificate of recognition during Filipino Month in Canada from our city of Brampton, which is really incredible. Yeah, we have really great city councilors, and our mayor is very, very good too. So yeah, it's great to be recognized by the city for our work as Filipino entrepreneurs specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear as well. So, Miss Arika, welcome to the pod. And I forgot to mention, guys, but if America has Ariana Grande, Canada has an Ari of their own,
Oh my God, stop! That is so funny. That is an honor. That is literally an honor. You are hyping me up so much. Ariana Grande is amazing. She just gave out $1 million in therapy. I do not have $1 million, but I would love to if I'm a millionaire one day. Maybe I should change my handle for Instagram to Ari.
Yeah, the first three letters are similar. You guys even resemble each other. I'm not gonna cap or anything.
Oh my God. Thanks. Wow. That's so funny. Wow. That is so flattered. I love Ariana Grande. Ask any of my friends. I went to 2 of her concerts.
Oh man. Wow, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
Oh. That's great stuff right there. But anyways, so to the Ari of Canada, could you please introduce yourself? Even though I kind of gave that short intro early on, but I guess now's your chance to give my listeners, a brief background about you. So now's your chance. Let's get it.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, my name is Arika. I am actually from Brampton, and you might have heard of Brampton in some references in like Drake songs. If you listen to Drake, for example, there's a lot of like artists that come from Brampton actually that are Canadian, which is really cool. But yeah, I was born here in Canada. I'm a first generation immigrant, or not immigrant, but I'm a first generation to immigrants. So my parents are the ones that came from the Philippines a long time ago. Yeah, I'm 25 years old. I turned 25 this year. I graduated university at the University of Toronto. I identify as like a Filipino entrepreneur. Like that's what everyone asks me, and I'm like, yeah, that's how I would introduce myself. And so that business, for example, Bean and Pearl, has been my life for the past 4 years. I think this year is going to be our fourth year in business. Yeah, so my sister and I are co-owners of that. And yeah, like we opened in Brampton, but we are now in Toronto, so that's why I moved to Toronto. And like, it's been 2 years now in Toronto. So I've been living the city girl life that I've always wanted to, as I dreamed as a kid. It is not as glamorous as, you would think.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I would never consider myself like a Toronto city girl. But lately, now that I've been here a bit longer, yeah, I definitely am so much more comfortable in the city. So it's really nice. Yeah, just a lot of different experiences in different areas, but mostly food, mostly business. And I went, like, for example, since you also graduated too. But in university, right? I'm pretty sure you were very active as well, right? Like on campus, for example. I was so active and I really, really enjoyed that. So that's like a big part of where I learned a lot of my like business organization, just like some experience there. But it was a lot of fun. So that was a big part of my identity actually growing up in the past few years. And during that time, I visited the Philippines, and that's where we saw each other last.
2016.
So long ago. Yeah, oh my gosh, that was 2016. Yeah. But yeah, I love dogs. So that's another part of who I am. If you follow me on Instagram, you will see my Insta story. Sometimes you will see a lot of dogs, especially the ones that visit our shop in Toronto. They are very high-class dogs, to be honest. I think they are richer than me because that area is very bougie. But yeah, that is a bit about me. Not much. It's basically business and just where I'm from.
All right, that's pretty interesting stuff right there, Arika. So, yeah, I mean, Toronto, such a beautiful city. It's one of the famous places in the world. And, I have so much love for Canada and all that, for Canadians. But the one time you guys, broke my heart was in 2019 when your Raptors beat my Warriors. I'm still sad about that.
I was going to say, that's the only moment that I could think of where it would break your heart.
Yeah.
Because I remember like Insta-storying it and you being like, no, I want these people to win. And I'm like, Raptors? Like, yeah, it was when they won, that was the biggest celebration that we had in the city, which was so cool. Yeah, the streets were packed. It was insane. It was actually insane. If you see photos from that day, it was exactly like that. People were climbing traffic signs, traffic lights. Yeah, and there was like, they had to stop cars from coming in like certain routes because like so many people like went outside of their buildings to celebrate together.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was very cool. Very Canadian moment.
Yeah, I'm sure you Canadians were happy. Well, us San Francisco people,
like rubbing it in.
Us Sanfo peeps were in pain. Or we were in Spain, with the silent S.
Iconic. Oh my gosh, that meme. That's so funny.
Yeah. But now that you're done introducing yourself and in a certain way the city of Toronto, I guess what was it like, or what is it like, being in Toronto? You said earlier it's not all glitz and glam, as any
Yes,
other city living would. So,
right.
were there any challenges? Were there any like difficulties along the way? Was there even like a language barrier by a certain extent, to a certain extent, because you have Filipino
Right,
lineage.
right,
So,
right.
what's that Toronto experience like for you?
Yeah. For me, moving well, in terms of culture, for example, I'm. It's very diverse down here. For example, so I didn't have that language barrier because like I grew up here. I speak English. If anything, I have a language barrier because I don't speak Tagalog, which I really want to. I really
Ah,
want to speak Tagalog, yeah, fluently. But coming to Toronto, as long as you understand a good bit of English, you are able to get around. Um, and so I didn't have a problem with that. I'd say the biggest problem was just money. Like it's very expensive to rent in Toronto.
yes.
Uh, and every year we see that like rent prices are going up and it's like the most out of the big cities in the world, for example. So I think even Vancouver is pretty expensive, but Toronto is a bit more expensive. And I think it's like Toronto prices rivals LA prices for rent.
Oh,
Yeah, which is like really crazy. And in comparison to like average salary that people make, it's crazy. So like if you're able to find a place that is affordable and cheaper than usual rents, then that's like a huge blessing.
mhm.
So for me, thankfully, I was able to do that for the place that I even currently live in, and I live
Yeah,
with roommates. Um, but that was one of the big barriers. It's just expensive to live down here.
yeah.
Still
I
is.
can imagine.
During during the pandemic, actually, because people weren't moving to the city, the rent did go down a bit. Like
Oh,
yeah, which was really cool. I think studio apartments, for example, used to be like one bedroom apartments. They used to be $2,000 a month before the pandemic, and then around last year it dropped to 1,300,
mm-hmm.
which was a major like decrease. But yeah, so that was like one of the big things moving to Toronto. It's always just like, oh, can you afford to be in Toronto? Like another thing I'd say is because other than that, there's a lot of convenience down here. So there's not many factors that I would say have hindered my experience,
Yeah.
thankfully. But you can definitely see an increase in homelessness because of the pandemic around the city,
Right, right.
which is really like disheartening. It's
It's
very
sad.
heartbreaking. Yeah. So it's just more visible, for example,
Mm,
which sucks. But in some ways, the city has tried to be, helpful with how the pandemic, like how they deal with the pandemic.
mm-hmm.
But it's been crazy. It's just been crazy with the pandemic in general. Toronto
Yeah.
is a good city, though. I do enjoy Toronto. When
Mm-hmm.
you hang around or meet the right people, um, it can be a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're right by the lake. I love the lake. So
Oh,
yeah, because we don't have
man.
oceans in our area, but we do have lakes, and the lake's pretty big. So it's nice to be able to go there and relax sometimes
Yeah.
away from all like the city life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very close. So that's another pro that I like.
Nice, nice. So you get like a balance of, city living and a little bit of nature since, you guys are right
Yeah,
beside the lake, which is like, that's pretty
yeah.
lucky of you guys.
Yeah, it's not that hard to even go to like a park or like a small like wooded area with lots of trees, or go hiking because there's just so many places in Ontario and Canada, which is nice. So yeah, you get a bit of both.
Yeah. That's awesome right there. Um, so yeah, now that we're done discussing, Toronto living, just giving me a brief background of what it's like to be in Toronto. Let's talk about your Bean and Pearl uh project. So Dubai, you
Right.
said, 4 years ago, that's when you guys started. Um,
Yeah.
how's it though? How's it been? Have there been any
Yeah.
challenges? Has it been thriving a lot lately?
Yeah. It's so 4 years now. When I started, I was 21 and I was still in school. and I was doing other student organizations in part-time work with my studies while we started. But thankfully, it's like such a family affair.
Yeah.
So there's the whole family's part of it. But essentially, it is when we started, especially. Very, very like grateful for that support. So that did help us along. My sister and I are the ones though that do manage everything otherwise. And so when we started it, it was actually after the Philippines. And a huge part of our inspiration was because we went to the Philippines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because of our experiences in the Philippines. So we, at the time, our cousins in the Philippines, like our family there, they opened a cafe. And when we visited, they were testing out their menu. And their cafe was just so cute, so aesthetic. I don't believe that cafe is open anymore at that like location under that name. It's I believe it was by Ateneo, actually.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was really cool. And I was like, oh, this is great. You know, like their goal was to have students come down and like have lunch and study and stuff. Like it was so cute, very, very delicious food. And then not only that, we like just the food scene in the Philippines is so good. Like it's so amazing, actually. In Toronto, for example, our food scene is fairly good, but compared to other parts of the world, it's not as, and especially the Philippines. Like I feel like the Philippines, when we went, I was just like, I didn't have an appreciation for the food industry the way I did until I went to the Philippines and just Asia in general, because we went to Japan as well for a small trip, like when we were in the Philippines, and we saw the cafes in Japan and just cafes in Asia, totally different. Okay. When you come to Canada, please do not be surprised if you are at a cafe and you're like, okay, like it's not as great as the ones in Asia, because the aesthetic, the quality of the menu is just all around in Asia, I think, when it comes to cafes and like the food industry. You will find cafes and good food places like that in Toronto, but yeah, we were just blown away by that when we went to Asia, and that was part of our inspiration for opening our own cafe in Canada. And so when we came here, when we came back, we were like thinking of different business ideas to go with, but what stuck with us was bubble tea, because we love bubble tea growing up, still love it. And in our specific city that we were in, Brampton, there was no bubble tea shops that you could sit in and hang out at. Really? Most of them were, like none. There was literally maybe one or two or like, maybe one or two places. Mostly it'll be like a pho restaurant, like a Vietnamese pho restaurant that like sells bubble tea on the side. Or you go to the mall and there's bubble tea like stands, but no cafe with like the cafe vibes. So that was our goal. And and that's why we decided to do that in Brampton and have the cafe. When we first started, it was crazy. We were not prepared at all. When we first opened, we didn't think that we would get such hype for opening, because like our first weekend, we had lineups out the door and we were so unprepared, like thinking, oh, we have some time to hire more staff, but we needed like a full team right away. So yeah, it was crazy. It was well worth it though. And we, like, our staff that has worked with us are amazing. Love them. Everyone's so cool. Everyone's so kind. And yeah, so it's been 4 years now. After 2 years, or on our second year, I think, Stacked, which is this shipping container mall, kind of like shipping container outlet, if you've ever seen those. It's called Stacked, like the management that did that here in Canada, that's their name. And so they reached out to us on Instagram because they saw our Insta photos and stuff. And they invited us to join Stacked, which was really cool. So they weren't open yet, but then we started planning, and then eventually they opened like that year. Like it was very quick. And we've been there for 2 years now. And I'm going to go there after this podcast because I'm
Oh.
going to work. But yeah, it's doing good. Like that location specifically is all outdoors. So we it's good in terms of pandemic, like people feel comfortable enough to come out and like, you know, shop a bit and look around. And they're adding a lot of really cool like restaurants and cool brands there, like local brands too, which is one of their goals. Yeah, that's a bit about Bean and Pearl. We do bubble tea and coffee, if I didn't say, but that's why it's called Bean and Pearl. It's coffee bean and tapioca pearl.
Oh, gets now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know most people don't even think of that. It's just like, yeah, that's the name, right?
I thought they're like,
But
you know,
that's
two
the
cute
meaning.
words into one. Into one
Right,
brand.
right. Yeah. No, they have purpose. They have
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah. Just like the pod name, you know? Just like the name of our
Yeah.
pod.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That intro, like your own intro, I did not hear that before when I was watching your videos, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so amazing. Like, you're right. That was spot on. Good branding.
Yep. But yo, anyway, so this Bean and Pearl business of yours, so you're doing it now full time, or is it like a part-time family thing?
Yeah, it's for me it's full time because I work at the shop most days and I'm in between locations. So my sister mostly manages Brampton and I manage the Toronto location, but of course we help each other out when we need. Our Toronto location is very small compared to our Brampton location. So I'm mostly there and it's been, I know so many people, like so many of our customers in Toronto are like, why aren't you open? Because of the like pandemic, we closed a bit.
Yeah.
Naturally. Thankfully, we were able to do that and then reopen again because Stacked has been so supportive of us. So we reopened and yeah, like I'm the one that's usually there and then we have a few staff there. But in Brampton, for example, there's like, I feel like there's 15 staff that we have that works part-time and then my sister comes in and manages, but we're also looking for managers for Brampton. Yeah, because we need the help. So yeah, we're trying to expand in that way. But yeah, that's why I'm mostly in Toronto and I do work full-time. Yeah, because then I also do like, of course, we don't just work in person. We have a lot of online things to do.
Yeah.
You know, like marketing and stuff, as well as just admin things. There's so many things. It never ends. And I'm just like, I have, sometimes it's overwhelming, you know, when you have so many things and it's hard to manage, but yeah, it's not too bad. It's just part of the business.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh man, I always thought, you know, Bean and Pro was only one branch, but I didn't know you have like separate branches now. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, that's like we're so grateful that we could, because to be honest, if we had like, we wanted to open, like when we opened the first one, we wanted to open another eventually soon, but Toronto was the last place we would have opened. Why? Because we have so much competition there.
Right.
All of the bubble tea places, like, and many more have opened in Toronto, especially like really cool franchises from Asia. And they just are incredible branding, incredible product. It was hard to compete when Toronto was so densely populated. And so in terms of geographic area, thankfully the area that we're in, there's not many bubble tea places in that neighborhood. So it's not too bad for us in that area. But where I live in Toronto, I have like literally 5 bubble tea places on my block. I have one right down my building and I could just go and grab like a milk tea. It's just so accessible.
Yeah.
It would have been better if we could open in another suburban area so that there's less competition. But yeah, like it's just part of the business. Like, you know, you'll always have competition. It's not just bubble tea that's our competition. We also have coffee, which is a part of our brand. But yeah.
Yo, I'm just curious though, like how far is it from Toronto to Brampton?
To Brampton?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like on a day where it's not busy and like you're not going to encounter traffic, it would probably be 30 minutes, maybe 35, 40 minutes. Yeah, like you're taking the highway and there's no traffic. Like the traffic is not like Manila traffic, just letting you know, like it's not at all like Manila traffic.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
a large distance.
You can admit our traffic sucks. I'm
Oh
not.
my God.
I'm not offended.
It's
That's everyday
so
stuff.
funny. I actually, this is off topic, but you know Trece, like the Netflix anime, right?
Yes.
So I watched that, binged it, love it. I'm like, this is so awesome. But I was like, okay, I feel like they are getting around too quickly in their car. And I'm like, I swear traffic was like more crazy from what I remember. And I'm like, is this accurate? Like, shouldn't it be like, you know, a bit longer in traffic? But yeah, so funny. Yeah, so it's around 30 minutes to get from here. But if there's traffic, it can go up to an hour and like 15 minutes. Yeah.
Wow, so that's like from, you know, my place to like say Makati or, you know, Alabang.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here there's a lot of large distances between cities actually. So Brampton's not that close to Toronto, but it is considered the greater Toronto area of cities. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty interesting right there. Man, you really have to
when you come.
You really have to tour me, you know. Because you know, Toronto's
it's different.
it's
different.
Just with your descriptions and all that, I'm sure it's a really big city. So
is it? I mean, compared to other
know.
places, yeah, I guess it is kind of big. It is nice. It's now that I know it more, I guess it seems smaller because I'm like more familiar with the places. But yeah, when you come visit one day, don't worry, I'll show you. I'll show you the good places now that I know.
All right. Yeah, looking forward to it for sure. But yo, since you mentioned, you know, you have multiple branches. Actually, I was gonna ask that question, you know. Like what are the future plans of Bean and Pearl? Like how are you going to expand? But yun pala, you know, you have two branches, multiple branches. That's like a great start. But you know, besides that, like how do you guys plan on growing the business even further?
Right. So originally, and this is like with the pandemic, I feel like plans change for so many business owners. But for us, for example, our goal was always to expand. We hope to expand and have other branches and locations, which is really cool. However, I feel like I just love thinking up different ways of love being creative with our product. And so it's so funny. Like sometimes I'll just be like, well, what if we did this? Like, what if we started, you know, a different type of concept restaurant, but under the Bean and Pearl brand, and it's not bubble tea or something, but we go into food or something, or go into the nightlife of the city, for example. That is more of a long-term like dream goal. Who knows if one day we'll do that. And then especially because of the pandemic, we had to pivot a little bit and like offer other product and services other than just in person, of course, or like online delivery. So we did our Boba at home kits, which is like bubble tea kits at home. And I would love, not that I would love, I actually, one of my, like I have a few dreams in that direction of Boba at home kits. And it's a lot of fun because then you can be as creative as you want because it's your own business and your own project. And just, you know, follow like realistic parameters, but it's still possible. And so, yeah, there's like a lot of things that I would love to do to expand. So even though I'm saying right now, oh yes, like our goal is to expand and have other locations, we do have other goals to expand our Boba at home kit line, for example, and other ways that we can supplement our business and make it more sustainable in that way. Yeah. Because with the pandemic, it's like, you know, some locations for businesses, there's a huge turnover of like the food industry specifically, where businesses and restaurants are closing down. So yeah, you just have to be creative and really be realistic with the outcomes. But yeah, that is what it is. I think like, especially now, we're slowly reopening, but it's still, I think like the general community feeling outside of business is just that like we're kind of on edge. We feel like, okay, even though this is the plan and these are the phases, there's no guarantee that we're going to go through with those phases because the pandemic has been kind of unpredictable. So so like anything can happen. So it's like I want to say that this is our plan for the next like year, but it really depends how the pandemic unfolds. Yeah, but that is our general plan. Like Bean and Pearl for me, I and my sister, we want this to be like our lifelong business that we can grow and make more. But it's still very small. It's still very small. It's still very early stages. But yeah, that is the dream. That's the dream.
That's a good one of that. Like I actually like that vision that you have, with your Bean and Pearl business. I mean, look where you guys are. Like the fact that you were recognized, a couple of weeks ago. That's already a huge W on your end.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, that's so funny because some of these things are very like they come as a surprise, and I did not think that like restaurants would get awards and like recognition like that because it's like I wasn't in that scene before then, so I don't have experience or really know about it. But then when we started and we've had other like awards from or like recognition from other like organizations locally that were like, oh, best juice is Bean and Pearl or best drink is Bean and Pearl. And I was like, oh my God, that's so incredible. Like very, very sweet. Especially because it just reminds us that we have a really great community that supports us.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just so surprising. I'm like, damn, like okay, cafes can get awards. I thought it's just people, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yo, speaking of people though, like have there been any famous personalities that dropped by your shop? Like has Drake visited there already? Or?
No, I wish that would have been cool. Like no, we haven't had that. That's so funny because like literally there's so many artists that come out of Brampton, like Brampton specifically. Like if you know Alessia Cara, for example.
Oh yeah.
There was like Russell Peters, the comedian. I think Michael Cera. He's like he hasn't been doing a lot of films like in the past few years, to be honest, that I know of. But he was like so funny, and he had a lot of like comedy films as well before. But they're from Brampton, which is kind of surprising. And we've never seen them. We've never seen them at the shop. Usually, I feel like once you hit fame, you're either in Toronto or abroad. Like, not really like going around locally. So we haven't seen any like famous personalities like that. Otherwise, that would be really cool.
Yeah, just imagine, they just randomly dropped by your doorstep.
Yeah, or like The Weeknd or Justin Bieber or like Shay Mitchell. She's from Toronto. Or like Canada, but yeah. No.
Don't forget Wendy.
Right. Oh my gosh, I have to search this up because there's clearly so much Canadian talent.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Even some K-pop artists are from Canada.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting actually. I don't really follow like the K-pop scene. I do watch K-dramas though.
You're missing
so
out.
I'm not super aware. Yeah, I've been listening to the same artists lately, so kind of boring. But I should open my horizons.
Yeah, it's time to enter the rabbit hole,
Yeah. Oh, I would get obsessed.
Yes.
That's why I'm limiting myself to K-dramas, because I am already obsessed with some series. But yeah.
Yeah, amazing stuff right there. And to Arika and your sister, do manifest it though, because I seriously believe with how your business is booming, there's gonna be like a famous personality or two that's gonna want to try out
our bubble tea.
Yeah.
Oh, I would hope that's like a huge compliment. Yeah, I would love to have stores in other countries. Think like, imagine one day it's like, we open one in the Philippines.
Oh
And I'm
yes,
like, yeah, I can
please.
go and try it now. I mean, that is like an incredible like dream. I think that's really cool. I
Mhm.
love the Philippines. I really miss the Philippines lately, especially because of the pandemic. I'm like, I want to go back so badly, just
Uh,
to visit and have vacation and visit family. Like, yeah.
I don't know if now's the good time though,
Oh yes,
because
I
of
know.
how.
I have to wait.
Yeah, it's sad, but the fact that you want to come back here, that's like huge honor, you know. Really a
Oh yeah,
huge honor.
Philippines is home to, you know, so many people, especially in Canada. A
Mhm.
lot of our staff who either are Filipino, etc., they like will talk about it and they'll just be like, yeah, I miss home. I want to go back, or I
Mhm.
want to bring my family there. Um, yeah, because the Philippines is so beautiful and like it's a part of who
Yeah.
we are, really. So, and there's a bit of a Filipino community here, obviously. Like you'll find Filipino community anywhere you go, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, and it's always, you know, it's great. It's so good that there is that. The Filipino community here is so supportive. So growing up here, my parents, even though they were, you know, immigrants and stuff, they met, um, like they had a great community of Filipinos here that are family friends, have seen me grow up, for example. And it's because of the Filipino community that our business is like doing well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing to hear. And actually, wanted to ask this question. Like, it's perfect. A
Mm-hmm.
perfect segue, because yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're enjoying your Canada life, and I wish I could have a sneak peek at least of what you're experiencing there. But sometimes, like, do you have those nights or instances where you're like, oh man, I wish I could live my life in the Philippines instead? Like, do you have those? Do you and your family have those mini regrets now? Canada's
Um,
nice and all, but I would have wanted
yeah,
to
that's
live
so
in the
funny.
Philippines.
Yeah. For me personally, like I know my parents, they're very well settled here in Canada. They have a great community, they have like stability and stuff. Um, and I know that 100% we want to go and visit the Philippines, like vacation, visit home, reconnect with family and like their family, friends, etc. I know my dad misses it, just like wanting to visit his sisters and his mom there. For me, it's so funny that you bring this up. I want to go to the Philippines, and if I go, I want to stay for like, you know, at least a while, not too long, like not permanently
Yeah.
because of our business here, obviously. So I wouldn't be able to do that. But like if I could stay for a month or something, or 2 months, that would be incredible. Just because I feel like now that I'm older, I have other things that I want to learn um, while abroad. And I know that the Philippines, like, especially if I, for example, if I decide to go alone, I have family there. And then also just learning of my culture
Mhm.
more. Because in Canada, even though there's like the Filipino community, I am not exposed to Filipino culture as much in my daily life. And even growing up, like, yeah, I am, but I feel like I'm missing out on, for example, not knowing or not like speaking fluently. There's like that whole cultural like shift when you speak a different language and you
Yeah.
understand the meanings and stuff, which I could learn here. And that's one of my goals. I really want to. So if I go to the
Yes.
Philippines, I hope that I am fluent in some capacity. um, but
Kayan.
yeah, I follow some like one Filipino YouTuber because I love watching her daily life and she's so funny.
Mhm.
Nisa Nuggets. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but I love her. She's so funny. And I'm like, wow, I want to go to the Philippines specifically because of her videos. And I'm just like, oh, like it looks as if, like, of course there are cultural differences, right? It seems like it's a bit laid back with like social interactions and stuff. But here in Canada, of course, there's a lot of cultural, like there is the Toronto culture, and then we all have our own specific cultures because there's so much diversity. So it is
Yeah.
so different. I would love to go to the Philippines and stay there for a bit and just like, live there abroad, and learn more about being in the Philippines and just having a different experience. I think we're all over being in one spot because of the pandemic, for example, right? Like being able to travel. But one of my like post-pandemic, when it's safe to travel, like Philippines is at the top of my list.
Wow, that's great. It's great to hear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I totally. I always love my experience when I go to the Philippines.
Yeah. Which is why, maybe we could speed up the vaccine rate. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We all want to get out of here,
crazy. Yeah. I mean, you said you got your second dose, which is good. I have mine coming next week.
Yeah.
So finally.
Yep. Good for you. Good for us. All of us.
I know. I always say congratulations. You got it.
Yeah.
When you like fully vaxxed, because then it's just some peace of mind.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
Yo, I'm excited. Like, should you make that visit to the Philippines? Like, I'll be one of the first to like tour guide you wherever. Like,
thank you.
I can't believe like we didn't meet in Ateneo. Like you said, you went there one time.
Oh yeah, it was. Oh my god! Whenever we go to the Philippines, the schedule is packed. It's packed. But like I guess were you at Ateneo? Were you studying there?
Yeah. How did we not?
That's so funny.
Meet there.
Besides
that one time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean now, if I do go, or so it's different. Especially as a Filipino like family returning home. It's like my parents specifically always have a huge schedule that's like jam-packed. They're like, we're meeting Tita and Tito today. We're going to meet, the Lolas this day. We're having a huge family reunion at this time. So like literally no days off. And if you want to do something spontaneously, it's like, okay, like where in the schedule does this work for us? Right? Because it's expensive to like buy round trip tickets across the world. So of course we can't do it all the time. It's like once in a blue moon and you have to save for it. And we're like, okay, we're going to make the most of that trip when we go. But if I go on my own, I 100% am going to like message all the friends that I've made there now and like all of the family and hope to like plan something. And I'm older now. So it's like I can have more of that independence. When I would go to the Philippines before, I wasn't able to do that. My parents would want to know where I am, of course, and I can't go off last minute.
Yes.
But yeah. Now it's different. So maybe we could do like a live podcast in person.
Yes. That's gonna be a fun one. Should that happen?
It would be different, right?
Oh yeah. I actually want to meet some of my guests physically now. Like Zoom is good and all. Like it gave me this platform, but it's different when you talk beside the person,
Yeah.
See his or her own flesh.
Yeah, that's like originally how most podcasts were born, It's like the radio type talk show host and you're just sitting and looking at each other and you can like make jokes. It's different with everything being online now. But the incredible part is that you have these opportunities and like you've been doing shows with other people in other countries. I think that's really cool. Oh
yeah. And other provinces here too in the Philippines, I'm not just limiting myself to Manila.
Exactly. And it's just different experiences. It's truly Jake of all trades.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah. That is really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, that should be exciting. And me myself, like once I go on a solo flight, where it be.
Right.
Maybe Canada or New York or wherever, like it's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
So
can't
wait.
That's it. Even if you're in New York, I'll go and I'll be like, you're coming? Okay, I'll show you some of the places. I like growing up, we were able to go to New York very often because it's like it would be a road trip and I have family there as well. I also want to go to New York. It's been a long time.
I've only been there twice, so
well, that's a lot actually. And
yeah,
New York's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep, that's definitely another EP for another day. In fact, that's gonna be our next So yeah, spoiler alert, guys. It's gonna be our next
Oh,
episode right
right.
after this one. But yeah,
Yeah, you'll get to learn about New York. That's cool.
yes, definitely. But yo, I mean, as you said earlier, Canada is like pretty much a melting pot. Also, you have different diverse
Mm-hmm.
cultures and all that.
It is.
But I'm sure, as with America and anywhere in the world, there's that one bad R word that we don't want to talk about. But the thing is, it happens,
Right.
and you
Oh,
think
yes.
they shouldn't be happening in diverse cities, but they do for some reason. So
Oh, yes.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Is it hard for you to deal with? And I'd be shocked.
Right.
I'd be shocked to hear personally if I hear
I
those
know.
conversations happening in Canada because it's like
Yeah.
such a diverse country. But
Right.
I guess
Right.
how do you deal with these things? Should if they have happened, at all?
Yeah. When it comes, so like we're talking about racism, right?
Yeah, or just
Yes.
anti-Asian, whatever.
Oh, yes. Especially now. Yeah.
Yes.
So actually, so important. I think, especially with the pandemic, of course, racism has been on the forefront with a lot of like social issues.
Mhm.
I personally am very, like, I love international news, for example,
Yeah.
international politics. So I like to keep up sometimes. Right now, I've kind of taken a break because it's just like mental
It's too
health.
toxic.
Yeah, like you need that balance. And
Yes.
so yeah, like especially with all of the anti-Asian hate, it hits home, you know.
Mhm.
Thankfully, as Filipinos, like we don't share many common characteristics with like for example,
Yeah.
Chinese identifying individuals, right? So when people see us, they can identify us as Filipinos
Mhm.
in our area, right? For people who can identify different races, different ethnicities in Asian culture, right? So we haven't had many experiences of racism in that form for the pandemic, but it still scares me because it's like
Yeah.
having a lot of our staff who is Asian, my family as well. For some people, they just assume, oh, you look Asian, you're Asian.
Oh.
It's China's fault for the virus, like that kind of rhetoric. And thankfully, it's not often that I hear that conversation. Like it's very
Yeah.
rare. But online, where people feel most
Yes.
comfortable behind a screen, they will say whatever they want and
They'll
think
go
like, oh
off.
yeah, and they're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm behind a screen. No one's gonna come for me physically, right?
Mhm.
In person, thankfully, more people have the sense not to say those things aloud.
That's good.
But
That's
there are
good.
still people who are racist. So, for example, in Toronto, there's been some cases where people like of anti-Asian hate specifically, and then it's not even just anti-Asian hate. There's also anti-Black, like racism. There's a lot of like because of the diversity of Canada, all of the international like politics, especially in Toronto, I'm just more exposed to it. So even though it's a pandemic, we've been having so many rallies for different
Yeah.
ethnicities. For of course, the first was BLM, like Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
There was the Palestine rally. Lately, there's been our Indigenous rally.
Good. We need that.
Yeah,
Our country
right.
badly needs that.
Right. It's really a problem everywhere. Like the natives of, different countries are always from the beginning have been oppressed. And
Yeah.
here it's thankfully like the exposure that is coming from it has been very good. But that like our government, nothing has come from it yet. And I really hope that there's like substantial change, but there's a lot of conflict in that area. So racism is still very, very prevalent in Canada, like 100%.
Man.
It's just, yeah. So it's like, even though, people say, yeah, it's diverse. One of the things, especially that I realized in the past few years is that it's diverse because one, we're all like, a lot of us are immigrants, either first generation or second generation now. And so our parents have come from other countries.
Yeah.
What's really fascinating to me, though, is that sometimes, you know, you take values from your country and then you come in to a different environment, and you may still think that, oh, my country and my culture still goes by these values, but things have changed back home, right?
Yeah.
And you may not always be aware because you're not always in front of that media. We have specific outlets that we have access to from the Philippines in Canada. But thanks to the internet, now there's so many more outlets that we can get information from and understand, like, socially how the Philippines is like and how they progress in Canada. But you do get a lot of people here who still hold on to a lot of like older values in Canada. So it's like, I know this is going to be a touchy topic.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But in terms of like color, right? Skin color.
Yeah.
So I know in the Philippines, like bleaching is a huge thing.
Yes.
And then immigrants that come here who still think like, yeah, that was the mentality, may think like, have some racist rhetoric that they're not aware of, right? But they think, oh, that's how it was at home, or like, that's just what I grew up understanding. So yeah, like those things are still very prevalent even in Canada, even though it's more diverse. But it's not all negative. There are people who totally understand and grow and learn. And it's honestly very uplifting to see communities come together from not just that race. Like, for example, like the Indigenous rallies, like you see a lot of people who aren't Indigenous supporting the cause. And that's like so beautiful to me, just being like, oh my God. Because it's so, I don't know if you've know of like what happened in Canada, but we've been finding a lot of missing children's bodies. From, it's insane. And it's like, it's so sad, but it's incredible the way that the community has come together despite all of it, right? Which I think is a positive change, you know, like, even though all of those things still exist, it sucks. Like anywhere you go, like, you gotta be careful. Right? And I'm like, especially as like us who are Asian, if we want to travel afterwards, it's like, do your research, really like know where you're going. Because you may encounter those things where it's like, oh, they just see us being Asian, and like with the coronavirus and everything, it's just being aware. But yeah, even in Toronto. So Toronto, there's been some like anti-Asian incidents where, like, for example, this guy was yelling at an old man, like Asian man, like outside a condo, saying like, go back to your country, blah, 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 like things like that. And it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But that video was online and it went viral. And I'm like, good. Let everyone know, like, you know, it's not okay. This is not like...
he needs to get his ratio.
Yeah. It's just, it sucks. It really does. But even before the pandemic, I'm certain that, like, you know, these beliefs or this mentality was also just, it was tolerated and people didn't really voice their opinions. And now people are, and that's why it's also you're more aware, and we're more aware of the racism in Canada. So it's both a good and bad thing, because now we can address it. And more people are addressing it, more like local businesses, local organizations are being made because of these social issues. So I think I believe that there's like a cultural shift. I believe that there's, you know, some change going on there, which is really good. Yeah,
definitely. And you know, pardon me, Arika, if I go off a little bit, but come on, guys, it's 2021. We're really doing this stuff. Like,
I know, right?
I thought this stuff was supposed to die already, but apparently it's not.
Right.
But still not excuse, or it's not an excuse, you know, to be actual jerks. Like, that's really all it is, if anything. Like, it's not...
in the end, just being kind to people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not like, oh, it's like presupposed, or it's like a common practice back in the day. No, like, you guys are just...
Oh, right.
You guys don't want to change, man.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, someone may like grow up with certain views of like life in the world, and it's like you can still change. You can still like change your views, change your perspective, where it doesn't harm others, and just be positive and grow out of that mindset. But yeah, it's just like, it's surprising sometimes, especially now. And it's not like me saying that, it's not just older generations in general. There's people who are our age or younger who either don't know better or aren't aware, or maybe they are, stuck in a certain perspective. Just anyone of any age, of any ethnicity, sometimes still hold like animosity towards other cultures or skin colors. And just because it's different or they're not familiar with it. And I think that's just like the basis of like racism, coming from that unfamiliarity, that kind of negativity, hate. But yeah, like I agree, 2021, you have access to all this information to learn. And it's just good to grow.
Yeah.
It's like,
definitely.
Growth mindset. But again, racism still a thing. If you do go to New York, just be a bit careful because of everything. But New York's been generally good with, even though there was a lot of anti-Asian, like in the States in general, like the anti-Asian like hate crimes in the States have been have been like, I think it was like 200% or 300% like increase because of the pandemic. But the rallies and the support from the community and from other ethnicities that have come out of that are incredible. So even though there's a lot of like negativity, there is still equally as much positivity that, supports equity and compassion,
Yeah.
It's hard these days.
I know. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I'm really happy that despite that, you're trying to take the good from the bad and just, focus on the positive stuff. Because that's really what's going to help us get by.
Yeah, you asked, like, I totally did, like, detract or went off the path. But you asked, like, oh, if that has happened in the shop, and how do you deal with that? Thankfully, it hasn't happened that often in the shop, okay?
Good to hear.
Thankfully it hasn't. But if even like the smallest thing that's been brought up by race by a customer, for example, saying like something that slightly like gives off tones of racism, I will shut it down. I will be like it doesn't matter, where you come from or what your ethnicity is. That shouldn't matter in this conversation, because no matter what we do at the shop, race shouldn't be brought into it. It's just bubble tea and coffee. It's just a matter of customers, having that interaction. But we've definitely actually had some customers come in and be like slightly racist, and are like, that has nothing to do with the quality of our service, of our product. And then I just shut it down, and I don't address it beyond that, because it's like, I will not tolerate racism in my staff, on my team, whether that's online, in person. I'm like a huge advocate for, different social issues, but that obviously is huge given like the environment of the world. So yeah, that's how we would deal with it. That's how I deal with it.
Yo, we need more people like you, man. Like in this
Thanks.
very toxic society, like I thought you were going to say, "Yo, get the hell out of here." You're not.
Oh my God! Sometimes it comes to it.
You can always say that, like there's nothing wrong.
Oh yeah.
If they go overboard.
Oh yes. If it comes down to it, I'll be like, you're not welcome in the shop. But thankfully, it hasn't gone to that point, because generally our customers are very kind, very understanding, very supportive. Like, we haven't had people like that. And I'm like, why? Like, why come into a bubble tea shop with so much animosity? You should be treating yourself. It's just, no place for that here. But yeah, like, despite being so forward with these, like, different ideals of, like, anti-racism and stuff, when it comes to our business, one of our goals is just to be a space for inclusivity, being a safe space to like hang out, to enjoy like, you know, your bubble tea or your coffee. It's like, it's supposed to be a laid back space. And so, yeah, like that's why we sometimes get to that point, because like you get customers who are, you know, come in after a bad day, and it has nothing to do with race. It's just them being grumpy, right?
Yeah.
And it happens. And that's just part of customer service. But yeah, in the end, you want it to be a good experience when you hang out with us or like at our shop. Yeah, hopefully we never get experiences like that again, because it sucks.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Man,
Yeah.
that was such a heavy conversation, you know.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sorry,
you
I
know,
went
no,
off.
I felt like it had to be addressed too, because you know, racism
Yeah.
sucks, and why are we doing this
Yeah.
in 2021, man?
Right. And also for any of like the Filipino viewers in the Philippines specifically or abroad, like, you know, you may have this perception that Canada and Toronto are such lovely places 100% of the time. But we have a lot of our faults and our cons as well. You know, it's not all glitz and glamour. And it just depends on where you are and the people you are around at that time. But yeah, it's normal. It's just part of life.
Yeah. Maybe you can.
Like, I don't want to give false hope, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Maybe you can address that though to some of our kababayans, because a lot of Filipinos on Twitter, they're like, man, I just want to leave the Philippines already. It's so bad in here. And you know, of course, it's a lot better in other areas. But yeah, as Arika mentioned, you know, don't act like she didn't warn you guys. You know, it's not all perfect in the greener pastures as what you would perceive it to be.
Right. Actually, that crossed my mind the other day, where it's like, I think a lot of people assume like, oh, like Canada or like the first, you know, those countries that are considered first world countries, you just assume it's all glitz and glamour over there, that it's really great. And that like if you come, like, for example, people who were born in Canada or just another country, when you have immigrants come in, sometimes you assume like, oh, wherever they came from was so bad, or they were really struggling before they came here, which is not true. Like there is so much beauty and like strength and like riches in other areas of the world, especially the Philippines, that people aren't fully aware of. And it's like, there are stories, both success, like good and bad stories of people migrating to Canada from anywhere but wanting to go back home and just being like, why did I come to Canada? You know, because it's not always like a linear transition, and like being able to be part of the community in Canada, like it's not for everyone. Because culturally, like I know the Philippines, from what I understand, it's like, you know, you have a lot of family values in your community where, you know, even the way that you talk in Tagalog, for example, it's just so much more warm, if that's how I would put it, more warm. Because in Canada, it's like in Canada, it's more, you know, you would say your first name, or you say Miss or Sir, or like Mr., you know, sometimes. So it's not as close-knit, or you like as open at times. And I think that's like a beautiful thing that the Philippines has. And for some people who love that and don't want to let go of that, the Philippines is great for that. In Canada, the Filipino community can be very good. It's like, you know, you see anyone of your ethnicity, like, yo, you're from home as well, and you can connect on that, which is good. There is still a wonderful Filipino community here as well.
Nice.
Yeah, like I went to New York once for a United Nations like youth conference years ago. And I think it was the same year I went to the Philippines, but I saw the Philippine delegation and I met people there, and they were just so incredible. And I'm like, it was like a huge, huge delegation. Like there was like 30 or 50 of Filipinos that came from the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
And like it's expensive to come to New York and
It is.
to do all that. Yeah, I like the Canadian delegation. I swear there was like none. I did not see any other Canadians
What?
there. Surprisingly, yeah. I did, but it was very, very small. The Philippines delegation just like looked like they were having so much fun, very intelligent, very on their toes, like, and I was just so blown away. I was like, oh, this is incredible. Like, I'm so happy to see that. Yeah, that was a really cool experience. It really showed me how little I know of the Philippines at that time.
Yeah.
And so being able to watch like Filipino YouTubers and like follow those and see what's going on is really cool. I'm so fascinated.
Well, hopefully you can check out this Filipino YouTuber over here.
Well, now, yeah, like I wasn't fully aware before, but like your stuff is so like high quality. I'm definitely going to be watching more.
Oh, thanks so much. Wow. So yeah, that was a heavy conversation. We had a lot of topics to discuss. But before we
Yeah.
wrap it up, I do want to lighten up the mood a little bit. So,
Yes.
you do know a little bit of Filipino. So what are some words
Oh
or
my
some
God, don't
phrases?
ask me right now. This is so bad. I'm so bad with language in general. Okay, I'm just letting you know. I had to learn French here in school,
Really?
and it's mandatory up until grade 9. And even there, I am not very good. Filipino words like mabuhay, salamat,
Yes.
like ate, kuya.
Okay,
Funny story.
at least you have the basics down.
Like the basics, right? Yeah. When I went to the Philippines, I learned like when I'm there, it's like I caught on to some words, and that I was like learning that I would use every now and then, and like if I was buying something and I was trying to like negotiate, I tried, and I would pull out some Filipino words just to like really put the punch in, but obviously people can tell I'm still a foreigner. Yeah. However, if you're doing some lessons, know anyone who's doing lessons, I will hire a tutor because I really want to be fluent in Tagalog. Actually, it's very common for people here who are born here not to be taught Tagalog. Actually,
Aw, that's sad.
I know. It's like I think it was like for my friends at least, I remember talking about it, and some of my friends don't speak Tagalog, and like we would ask our parents, and it's because like generally the reason being like, oh, well, you're in Canada, we want you to be really good with English so that you can be successful here. So they would think like, oh, if you teach Tagalog, your English might not be as good, but it's not true. You definitely could learn both and still be very fluent in both. But there are people who do speak Tagalog fluently, even though they're born here. And it's mostly because like their lolas and lolos are home and they speak Tagalog only, for example. Yeah. It's very good.
Definitely. Yeah, so sa mga viewers ko, like to my listeners, whether here or in Canada, come on. Turuan natin si Arika mag Tagalog for a bit. I think that would be really cool, That's just to spice up, our language palette and all that, and to break more barriers,
Yeah, like knowing multiple languages is such a blessing. I think that is like so amazing.
But like out of curiosity though, like I should have asked in the beginning, but like I always thought that Canadian accent is similar to US accent. So is that true?
Right. Do I sound like different?
No, I keep thinking they're very alike. And, you sound
right.
Western for sure, but I don't know if there's like a distinction between Canadian English to US English.
Yeah, actually that's so interesting. Growing up for me, I always like for us, our media that we have here, like TV shows, the popular ones growing up would be usually American. And so the way we speak, like with our accents, I always thought, and I think it's pretty common for other Canadians as well, like that American and Canadian accents are the same. But I have cousins in in the US who live in like New Jersey and New York, and they would tell me about like, they would be like, oh, you say these words differently, like, and they would make fun of me. They'd be like, you say a boot not about. And like, or you say like this instead of that because it's like a very Canadian way of saying it. And I was like mind blown. I was like, what? Like I had no idea. I couldn't even recognize when they would say words differently from like me. But apparently there is a difference. And especially in other states in America, there is a difference. Like there's like some really like native New Yorkers have very distinct accents, same with New Jersey, and like other parts of the states because there's like so many states. But yeah, there is a difference. But do I sound the same as American? Because like I think so.
Yeah.
But apparently there are words that aren't. Yeah.
Yeah, like neighbors or flavor. There's always that U in between.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, we use like British. Like we still use British spelling. In the States, apparently, they took out a lot of the British spelling because it was like in the press, in newspapers, people who want to put an ad or something into the newspaper, like an article, they would have to pay per letter. So the less letters, the better. So they took out all of those extra like letters that was from the British like language, British version of English. And so that is why America doesn't use a U in most of our like flavor, and color. It's like COLOR. Because they needed to save money on print space way back in the day. A random fact that I learned.
No, because when I use Grammarly, it's like your version of certain words is wrong, but like I don't know what to use sometimes.
Right. Oh, really? Like, is it Canadian like auto corrections?
No, I think Grammarly uses US, but for me, I keep the Canadian spelling when some of our clients are from Canada. So
okay, that's awesome. That's so aware. That is so kind of you.
Yeah, for sure.
You're like, it's not that I don't know how to spell. This is correct too.
Yeah. But yo, since you guys use British, or you guys are kind of influenced by like British and French countries, does that mean you drive on the left side or the right?
The right.
Oh, so it's just like here,
It is, yeah, it is. I think like the only places, like the UK does the left, right? And Australia, I think.
Singapore, I think they do left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like no, we do the right. If I had to start driving on the left anywhere, like no, I could not. I would have an accident.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty tough to adjust.
Yeah, like other things from there are some like I guess symbolic things that we've kept from like Britain, for example. We used to be like recognize the Queen as like I don't know if we still do actually, so I may be wrong, but we have other things like a Governor General that is from Britain. Otherwise, we really have no use for it. I think the Governor General is a relay from the Queen. I'm not entirely sure. I could be so wrong. Okay, maybe this is like not facts about Canadian history, but recently we like Trudeau appointed an Indigenous person as our Governor General, which was supposed to be like a symbolic win. However, it's not actual action, but it's still pretty cool. So those are some things that we do take from like Britain and like I think Victoria Day. We have that too. That's, like, British
Victoria
Day. Yeah, like those things we do have. If you
Mhm.
come to Ottawa, it's like the architecture too is more like Parliament and like all those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know a lot of Canadian information right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, for anyone who's interested in coming to Canada, that's what it's like.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness, guys! I think we made it. Like I can't believe that we talked a lot of stuff. Like
I know a lot of different topics.
yeah, so many different topics. Usually have a hard time like when brainstorming certain topics and questions. I'm like,
Yeah,
how am I gonna stretch this? But yo, Miss Arika, you really did a great job. Like I was just
Thank
merely the
you.
host, but you carried the show here. For sure.
Okay, thanks. No, you always have it like well done. So thank you
Mhm.
so much for like
Yeah.
hosting this and organizing it.
Oh
I
yeah.
know we went through a lot of heavy topics, like a lot of different
Oh yeah.
ranges of
For
things.
sure.
I hope it was like, informative to people. And I hope I didn't offend anyone.
Oh no, no,
But it
no.
is just like the realistic
Oh yeah.
perspective of, what it's like currently for me in this space here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But before we do go, like as a wrap up, I guess, like what's your selling
Yeah.
pitch to me, or not just to me, but to anyone listening,
Oh, for like
because
being in Pearl or something.
or no, but just let's
Oh, for
say
Canada.
they're in a crossroad, like, oh man, where am I gonna go? Like, obviously the popular option is the U.S. and rightfully so. But let's
Oh,
say
right.
you're trying to sell to Mina, hey, you should try to go to Canada, try out Canada for
Oh, I
a
see.
change. Like, how would you sell that to
Right.
me or to anyone who's planning on living a new life
And moving
elsewhere?
abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak for a lot of other countries, to be honest. So for Canada, though, I would say the biggest thing is government assistance and healthcare. That would be the biggest thing that I'm like, yeah, you need to come here for that reason. If you're going to live like long term and you want to be a permanent resident somewhere, I'd say our healthcare system is good. It's not perfect, but it is pretty good because literally horror stories like in the States, I always hear this and I was shocked, but like, you have an emergency and people are like, don't call the ambulance because it costs money to like go to the hospital. So they'll like call an Uber or a taxi. Like it's very expensive. But aside from like healthcare and like government assistance, because I'd say Canada's fairly good with that. If you come to Canada, generally being able to travel anywhere and go to the US is very easy. It's like with a Canadian passport, like you are recognized as, oh, Canadians are so nice. They always say sorry. And like, it's we don't need many visas to visit other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And then also going to the States is just so easy. Like you go to the States and you can be there for a bit as well from Canada. Like you could drive there, you could take a bus, you could fly, and the tickets aren't that expensive.
Mm-hmm.
That's why for me, it's like, I want to travel the world, but I know that I will come back to Canada because of one, the community. I like the diversity. I also like our healthcare system and our government assistance to an extent. And that like the rest of the world is so accessible to me, thankfully, because I'm a Canadian.
Yeah.
So that would be my pitch.
Oh yeah.
Like part of me, I'm so proud to be Filipino as well as Canadian, growing up. So yeah, come to Canada, everyone.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great pitch right there. And that whole healthcare thing you were talking about, we can only dream about that,
It's hard.
We can only dream
it's
of
so tough.
efficient healthcare. Like,
yeah,
it's so hard here.
Yeah, I know. I literally hear stories like, and that's why I'm like, I can't read the news anymore. I gotta chill because this is like too heavy. But
it is.
Yeah, like hearing, especially during the pandemic, it's really crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like even though the vaccination rate here has felt slow compared to our neighbors in the States, it's just because of production. But the like slowly but surely, everyone is getting their vaccines, and
it's good. It's good.
Even when it comes to like emergencies, which is the biggest thing, like we don't really have to worry about money, about paying off surgeries or paying off debt for like health reasons, which is really incredible. And that's just like a peace of mind, you want to live without having to pay for your living so much, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's tough. Yeah, that's like one of the biggest things. Although our healthcare could be better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it could still be better.
Definitely.
But still very grateful.
Yeah. But like I said earlier, that was an awesome pitch right there. And I'm just undecided, like once all this is said and done.
Right,
like,
where you want to go?
Yeah, honestly, I know I'm from the Bay and I know I'm living here and in the Philippines. But if I were to narrow it down, it's either New York or, Canada, if anything.
Right.
Yeah, because of all the good stories I've heard.
Yeah.
And so
and
much
the
family.
Filipino community. Yeah. In all those places, the Filipino community is so great, right? Like, I was able to visit the Bay Area once, and I had so much fun. Like, it was so incredible. That one time that I went, So like I totally get why you would be confused.
Mhm.
I actually want to visit the Bay soon, like eventually. But yeah, like when you decide where you're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
visit,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you could go to all of those places.
Yeah,
When you
definitely.
if you do, just like check like the flights internally, right? Usually they're cheaper from like in the
Mhm.
States. And then going to New York to Toronto, like you could find a bus, even though
Yeah.
buses kind of suck, but it's much cheaper than a flight. So
Mhm.
you could also do that, which is really cool. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome stuff right there.
If you
But you,
wanted to save money.
yeah, knowing us, yeah, definitely. But one thing's for sure though, like wherever I decide to go, like you gotta take me to a Raptors game though. Like when the Warriors
Oh
come to
my
town,
God.
when the Warriors
That
come to
would be so
town,
cool.
you
Right.
gotta.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I went like once before to a Raptors game and like now the Raptors is way more hyped. They're like obviously so amazing. Like
Yeah.
just in general, basketball has like the culture has grown so much.
Hmm.
But yeah, like we like have our arena here and it's so fun going. Like you would love it. So
Yeah.
and then you leave and you see the CN Tower. It's such vibes.
Whoa. Yeah, that would be amazing. Although I think all of you guys are gonna hate me because I'm gonna
You'll be
be.
like not for the Raptors.
Yeah, I'm gonna be for the Warriors.
Yeah, you should plan it when they do have like a game.
Yeah,
That would be like worth it.
for sure, for sure. But yeah, I mean that's gonna pretty much do it. So guys, I'm so starstruck right now because like I said, I cannot believe I just interviewed the Ariana Grande of Canada, guys.
Stop. You're so funny. Nowhere close to that. Maybe in name, Ari, sure. Thank you so much. I think like this is super cool. Like being able to do this podcast and it's like mainly for the Philippines.
Yeah,
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. This is like a really cool experience. And it was
yeah.
fun just talking about these things, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. And it was such an honor, getting to meet you again after so long.
I
Um,
know it's been years.
yeah, yeah. But before we do go, as usual, like, what are some of your plugs? I mean, I'm sure Bean and Pearl, they want
Right,
to grow,
right.
and I'd be happy to
Yeah.
like endorse you guys anytime
Thank
needed.
you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like if you want bubble tea coffee and say you're a Canadian viewer
Hmm.
or you're coming to visit Canada in the future, definitely try us out. We are Filipino owned. So Bean and Pearl, you can follow us at Bean and Pearl,
Hmm.
which is just the name. Bean and Pearl on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, but we're not that active there, or even LinkedIn, and you want to see what we're up to. And you can follow myself. I'm Arika, and you'll see it here below.
Yeah,
So
right here, right
thanks,
here.
Jake.
Oh,
It's like
sorry.
here.
Went the right way. Yeah,
Right, right. Yeah. So definitely come by if you're ever in the area, or just follow us online because we love doing this stuff. Like I love meeting new people and having these kinds of conversations about business, about
hmm,
like social issues, etc. I think that kind of unexpectedly went into that topic, but
it needed to
still
be
worth it.
said though.
I think it's important to
Hmm.
like talk about those things.
Yeah,
Yeah, so definitely follow. I'll follow
yes.
back.
Yes, please, guys, do so. And do you guys have free international shipping to some of my Filipino viewers? Because
Oh
I'm
my
sorry,
God,
but
that's so funny. That's so true.
most of my viewers are from the Philippines. So
Oh yes. Oh my God, not a problem at all. Even just supporting us online is great. We tried. We're like, oh, Tita, can I send this to you in the Philippines? What's your address? Let's see like what the shipping rates are. And it was like $70 to ship a package. It was insane. But we're working on our product right now, and I've been saying this a lot because it's been taking some time. So our Boba at Home kits, we're changing the packaging. And we have this green transition that we want to do for the business. And so it's taking some time, but so things may change. Like right now, we're not able to send to the Philippines,
Mhm.
but because we're changing the packaging and it will be a bit lighter and just different, we may be able to send it abroad like that. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years, if we ever open a Bean and Pearl in the Philippines, you can just try it there.
Yeah, you can have one, right across Ateneo. Because
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of students love um
Bubble tea
yeah,
and
bubble
coffee.
tea,
Yeah,
cocoa
oh
and
my
all that.
gosh. Yeah,
Black
oh no,
scoop.
but we have to like really up our game to like keep up to the food scene there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I know you guys have what it
Yeah.
takes though.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still pretty new, so we'll see where it goes. Anything can happen, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So those are Arika's plugs, and that's been in pro for you and to my very little but hopefully soon growing
Yeah.
Canada following. That's where you can
Yeah.
check out Ari's stuff right there. Um, so now it's my turn
Yes.
to do my plugs. I'm not sure if Arika's seen these before. Um, do I really have to do this though? No, of course I do.
No, do it. Do
Yeah,
it.
of
No,
course.
yes.
Just to formally end the show. But if you
Hmm.
do want to follow me on IG, you know where it is. It's at joat.pod.dlro. So once again, it is at joat.pod.delro. For the personal naman, it is at Jake_Delro. On Twitter, it is at _del_ro_. So on Facebook naman, it is at facebook.com/joat.pod.delro. Or if you just want to search it on the search tab, it is Jacob of Trades with Delro. This podcast can be streamed, televised, viewed, and listened to on the following platforms: Spotify, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Anchor, Breaker, YouTube, and on Facebook. So how was that, Ari?
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you are set. I don't even know half of those platforms like that you're also on. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to do it. You have
yeah.
to do those outros. So
Oh yeah,
important.
oh yeah. Although yeah, most of my viewers will check it out on Spotify and YouTube. But yeah,
Right.
do
Okay.
check out those other sites as well. So any last words before we
I just want to
officially
say
wrap it
thank
up?
you. Yeah, just thank you so much for having me here. Being able to talk about my experience, not just with being in Pearl, because that's what I'm so used to, but you know, as a Filipino Canadian, and I hope that it does help anyone who just wants to learn about what's going on in Canada a bit, what it's like in Toronto. Even though that was just scratching the surface, I feel like we had a lot of good discussion there. So thanks for listening.
Yeah, definitely. It was fun. And shout out to both our moms, shout out to your mom as well. I'm sure
Yeah, tita.
she's gonna be tuned in. Hello po, tita. Like, kamusta?
Yeah, I hope you're all doing
Yeah.
well. It would be so nice. I can't wait to come to the Philippines
Yes.
and vice versa. I'm sure we're all going to have to see each other
Yes.
and show each other around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So hopefully to your family, balik po kayo one of these days.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
Soon, when it's all safe.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, please do get your vaccines, take care, follow the protocols so we can all just have
Right.
fun and go back to living life the way it was.
Right, right.
So
And
with-
travel and stuff.
Oh
yes.
yeah, for sure. So with that being said, that's a wrap, y'all. Thank you for tuning today, mga Del Bro sisters, and to all the Arianators.
Oh, but you know what? I am a huge fan of Ari, so yeah, that is hilarious.
This has been your one and only JOAT. She's your one and only Arika Macaalay, aka the Ariana Grande of Canada, Toronto, Canada. And we are both signing out. Hanggang sa susunod na usapan at chikahan. See ya, and how do you say goodbye in Canadian?
Goodbye.
There
Have
we
a
go.
good day. Have a great day.
Yeah, peace, guys.